一同合唱。ナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダーナマンダー ナマンダナマンダスマライハイ殺無量寿経十世間阿願長世願
Hanford Buddhist Church, the Shotsuki name for the month of April are Chono T, Kusamura R, Matsufuji G. Nishi G. Nishi M. Miya K. Founder Buddhist Church, the Shotsuki name for the month of April are Ninomiya Misa, Ninomiya Arthur Shigeo, Kuramoto Toyokichi, Kuramoto Naomi, Toyama Sentaro, Miyazaki Koichi, Yamane Sam, Hagihara Shigetaro, Asakawa Kitaro, Asakawa Toyo, Hirasuna Kiyoshi, Hirasuna Taka, Tasaka Kazuki, Honda Rita, Nishina Reiko, Hiyama Eiichi, Wada Saji, Maebo Ayako, Tsuboi Masao, Toyama Kin-ei, Hashimoto James, Hagihara Meimi, Miyazaki Morito, Masui Asako, Hirasuna Ted, Nakahira Mary, Koyanagi Yasuo, Kawano Frank Tsutomu, Gibson Jun Masae, Tsuboi Haruko, Masumoto Joe, Tsuboi Hiroshi House, Arasuna Toshiko Yamamoto, Koyanagi Mae Umeyo, Kikuta Fumie Pauline, Hiyama Misao Edith, Iwai Gary, Iwamoto Hisa, Nakamura Shizue. Fresno Betsuin Buddhist Temple, the Shotsuki name for the month of April are Ando Nihei, Aoki Fusataro, Arakaki Nae, Arakaki Nobuko, Arakaki Ryoan, Dobashi Jiroku, Dobashi Shoichi, Doi Ikue, Fujikawa Yasu, Fujioka Sumiko, Fujita Kinai, Furubori Kenzo, Furutono George Minoru, Hagiwara Yonekichi, Hamaguchi Moto, Hamaguchi Hitomu, Hamamoto Kyoto, Hamaoka Hima, Hanashiro Kimiyo, Hata Masuto, Hataka Yukio, Hayashi Hanako, Hayashi Riley, Hirano Aki, Hirano Tayeko, Ishida Miyoya George, Ishida Shoji, Hiyama Eiichi, Hiyama Roger Keiki, Horiguchi Kazuma, Horiuchi Kinue, Horiuchi Mark Yoneo, Hosokawa Kishi, Ikawa George, Ikawa Jack, Ikawa Tsuruye, Ikeda Hisaye, Ikeda Kiyoko, Ikuma Kyoko, Inoue Fred Shiro, Ishihara Masuta, Ishikawa Motomasa, Ishimoto Haruko, Ito Kura, Itogawa Judy Fumiko, Izuno Saji, Kamada Hajime, Kaneichi Misao, Karasuda Mitsugi, Kataoka Jeffrey, Kataoka Kenneth Thomas, Kawamoto Yorio Art, Kawano Kenneth, Kawate Kamematsu, Kawate Konobu, Keibo George, Keibo Henry, Kihara Tsuneko, Kimura Reverend Given, Kobashi Elma, Kobata Tsunekichi, Koda Shintaro, Komatsu Sannosuke, Komukai Kimiko, Kono Shizuko, Kubota Itaru, Kubota Sadahashi, Kumagai Yoshio no, Kurihara Hideko, Kurisu Tetsuya, Maseba Shizuko, Masuda Emi, Matoba Shisako, Matoba Hiroshi, Matoba Kumaji, Matsubara Koyuki, Matsui Akiko, Matsui Gunji, Matsui Nobuko, Matsumoto Itsuji, Matsumoto Tatsu, Misaki Masako, Misaki Shima, Miura Shigeto, Miyake Asajiro, Miyamoto Gunzo, Miyamoto Arving, Miyamoto Rao, Miyazaki Ainosuke, Miyazaki Koichi, Morikawa Akira Arthur, Morishita George Tokiyoshi, Morishita Kuma, Morishita Lillian Yoshie, Mukai Toshio, Nagao Shigemori, Nagata Sam Isamu, Nakagawa Kathy, Nakagawa Toshio, Nakashige Suemi, Nakashima Sueko, Nakasuji Kennosuke, Nakata Joe, Nakata Toriko, Ninomiya Akiko, Ninomiya Ikoichi, Nishijima Kimiye, Nishimura Noriaki, Nishimura Tota, Nishina Reiko, Nishitani Maki, Ochiai Kera, Oda Nobu, Ogawa Yukikado, Ohashi Minoru, Okada Barbara, Okada George Takumi, Okada Rikio, Osaki Kenji, Otto Roy, Regan Luther, Saito Usuke, Saito Leo Ryohei, Sakahara Tsuyako, Sakamoto Sumiko, Sasaki Hatsuye, Sarah Mini, Shimada Eijin, Shimizu Akira, Tsunada Fumie, Tsunada Minoru Bob, Suo Tamaye, Takada Rin Yumi, Takada Yae, Takayama Yoshio, Takemoto Kazuma, Takemoto Masaichi, Takemoto Yukio, Takeshita Haruye, Taketa Hajime, Takeuchi Harry Takao, Tanaka Harry, Tanaka Robert, Tange Henry, Tange Teresa, Taniguchi Kaname, Tanimoto Takikuchi Takuichi, Tanoue Toshio, Tatsuta Ryukichi, Tagioka Yuriko, Tanoka Harley Masaru, Toyota Toyosaku, Sudama Suzy, Tsuruoka Lily, Umagami Iwataro, Umekita Yuri, Uota Dan, Uota Kantaro, Ueno Naoto, Ueno Roy Kenji, Vogo Judy Subiko, Wada Kichiro, Wakida Mitsumori, Wimmer Toshie, Yamagiwa Oliver Irene, Yamaguchi Fumiko, Yamamoto Keith Dudley, Yamamura Baby Girl, Yamamura Frank, Yamamura James Yoshio, Yamamura Rikio, Yamanaka Misao, Yamanaka Mitsuye Phyllis, Yamashita Tom, Yasuda Haruko, Yasunaga Entaro, Yokomi George Kazumi, Yoshikawa Kiyoye, Yoshimura Alice, Yutani Takuzo, Zenimura Kiyoko. Partier Buddhist Church, the Shotsuki name for the month of April are Kanemoto Torao, Takata Kanichi, Yoshizaki, Akiyuki, Kaneichi Yoshitaro, Nakadachi Umeno, Nakamura Ayano, Yoshizaki Yuki, Kobashi Tome, Nishimura Thomas Jr., Chiamori Chisato, Yamamoto Mitsuyoshi, Watanabe Teru, Hakutani Sadao, Tsuji Sue, Kurokawa Akira, Nishimura Haruo, Nakadachi Akira Donner, Nakamura Helen, Okubo Tom, Ohara Kazutani, Yorizane Takashi, Koga Midori, Kobashi Jin, Yano Robert, Yonemitsu Ikue. Ridley Buddhist Church, the Shotsuki name for the month of April are Harada George Kikuo, Antoku Yaetaro, Asakawa Kitaro, Hara Isamu, Miyazaki Mari, Hatanaka Yoneko, Hirata Richard Yoshito, Hirata Bill, Kiyama Roger, Osaka George Masanori, Shimizu Akira, Iwasaki Sadame, Kimura Setsuko, Kawasaki Mume, Naito Shigeo, Naito Mitsuharu, Nakata Shizuko, Yamamoto Fumiko, Iwasaki Charles Kiyoshi, Kawamoto Kiyoshi, Kawakami Tomichi, Kawasaki Hiroshi, Yamagata Kinu, Hashimoto Mitsuko, Sakai Yasuzo, Ito Sakano, Kubota Tadato, Miyamoto Michiko, Morita Elsie, Nakagawa Tomo, Nishida Joe, Hanemoto Kazume, Kubo Tokino, Omori Kazuo Jim, Sakata Tom Minoru, Sasaki Douglas, Sasaki John Masaye, Shine Kimiko, Suemoto Kenneth Takeo, Yokota Minoru, Yokota Chie, Tsunamoto Tomokichi, Taguchi Kazuo, Matoba Chisako Berry, Tsuboi Haruko, Takasaki Toshiyuki, Tsuji Sue, Ueda Bruce, Wada Koichi, Fujiwara Ai, Wada Mary. Visalia Buddhist Church, the Shotsuki name for the month of April are Maeda Kataro, Maeda Harry, Harada Shomatsu, Kajioka Masao, Mitsuoka Scott, Mitsuoka Shigeru, Hatakeda Imano, Tanimoto Takeichi, Sumida Yoshiko, Harada Ray, Obayashi Tom, Mikata Shigetoshi, Maeda Kimiko, Matsuda Edward, Imoto Sam Shigeru, Mitsuoka Scott. Please, everyone rise to the reading of the three treasures. Please join me, Gassho. Fortunate, easy to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Rare, easy to encounter the teachings of the Buddha. Now we hear it. If we do not seek the truth of the Dharma in this life, in what life shall we find it? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken within us our highest aspiration. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depths of the Dharma and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become unique in true accord, in a life of harmony, in a spirit of universal brotherhood, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriad of kalpas, hard it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful teaching. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teachings. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Please, everyone, be seated. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'd like to thank everyone for joining today's Central California Combined Sunday and Visalia Buddhist Church Spring Ohigan and March monthly memorial service. That's Shotsuki. Yeah, I always explain what the Shotsuki. So some of you maybe watched it over and over on the YouTube or came here and heard many times. But always I try to reiterate what the Shotsuki is. So Shotsuki is a Japanese term. Then that's a month of celebration. Then people wonder why we have to celebrate my Ba-chan's death, grandma's death. Then we don't take that way because the people we lost in the past. Then since we are born someday, we have to die anyway. Then our ancestors showed us the example as what the death looked like. So at the time you encounter your loved one's death, what did you feel? Life's impermanence, life's fragileness. Then from that encounter the death, what did you feel? Then how their death mean to you? So at the time, your loved ones who passed away became your lifelong teacher to start thinking about your life. Then turn into your life to think about how fortunate to have your life. Like Three Treasures said, fortunate to live our life right now. Then, food for the celebration is for us, not for the people to celebrate. We don't say, oh, Bachan, oh, you're lucky you died. We don't say that. Instead, because we lost all these people, grandparents, great-grandparents, then they try to encourage us to stay healthy, stay happy, then live as long as possible. That's their all past generations' wish. That's why they strived their effort to maintain their families. That's why you have your own generation right now to enjoy your life. When you see that reality, how you feel? That's so lucky. Because all these people made us the path to walk through. That's why we say the month of the people who passed away, we say instead month of celebration of our life. Because our life is always connected to all the past generations. That's why whenever we are happy, your parents are happy, grandparents are happy, great-grandparents are, even no longer with us, but still, they're happy too. Because from them, you are like a mago, grandkids, right? Then they say, oh yeah, I'm so happy to see everyone is enjoying. That's why we say, although this is a month of memorial month, right? But in Japanese, we say month of celebration for your particular life, given by all the past generation. That's why we say Shotsuki is a month of celebration. So that day, please, especially, enjoy and try to recall all the people who passed away in this particular month, which is March. Then especially right now, when I don't know how many people watch the TV or cable TV, many things are going on. Then March 2nd, there's an interfaith gathering. It's a pray for Ukraine. I don't talk about politics or other things, but especially this is important. I realize that's why I share some of the stories. So the March 2nd, I joined interfaith national prayer for Ukraine. Then although Buddhists, we don't pray because we have no God. So I observed and I had a chanting for the service. Then we had to have a chance to hear from clergy who is working in Ukraine. That's on March 2nd. That's already a couple of days ago. At the time already, they are having a hard time to find the food, the water, because some of the water plant is destroyed, so they have no clean water. That's why they're waiting for drinking those kind of water. So that's why these clergy, although they are death-threatening situation, right? Rocket and bombs, then they're running around to help their members and neighbors and all the community people. So they said, if you're possible, please just say, we support, then we care about you. Only that wording, but that's really strong and help these people. Then since conflict started, many people passed away, just like World War II. I'm sure many of people here lost maybe the family members, like especially like a 442nd. A lot of people had a severe situation. They fought for the U.S. So I'd like to have a silent meditation for people who passed away in March in the past. So please join me, Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Naman Dabutsu. Naman Dabutsu. Thank you, everyone. So today, also we are observing spring Ohigan service. Do you know Ohigan? That's also, again, the Japanese term. Ohigan is usually observed during the equinox day. The daytime and nighttime is equal, usually the late March. But today we are observing spring Ohigan to think about life and death. Because we usually care about the life, death, instead of birth itself, right? Because we are going toward moving forward to the death. That's why, especially when we lost our family members, they say, oh, maybe next is my turn, things like people start thinking. Then maybe some of you lost your parents in a young age. Then some of you already passed the parents' age. Then sometimes people start thinking, oh, I passed my father's age, So, little by little, people start thinking about what the death. Then, when we observe funeral service and memorial service, then we start thinking about, how that affect, how that gonna be happen on us too. That's why spring or fall Ohigan time, the daytime and nighttime is equal. So that's why in the Buddhist tradition, we always try to see life and death is equal. Life and death is equal because that's just a natural cycle of, the living things. Since we are born, someday we have to die. That's why everyday life from birth to death, which means the dash portion, right? Life to death, there's a dash portion. So this dash portion is so important. That's why in Buddhist tradition we say, try to be mindful every day. Mindful every day. Because even you say, see you tomorrow or see you next time, we may not know we will have next time or not. That's why today, especially I wanted to use Sanbujo instead of Juseige. Because usually we sing we chant Juseige, right? But today we use the Sanbujo. Do you know why? Because in Sanbujo, there's the name of practice in it, in Sanbujo. So when you look at the Sanbujo, I don't know, you can quickly find these wording. But here, Juseige kai ni shojin yose zanmai chie ijo. So, these lines, that include practices. I'm sure your service book have an English translation. Kind of like 1 to maybe 5th page. Yeah, Juseige kai ni shojin yose zanmai chie ijo. So chie is a wisdom, right? Chie. So actually there is a 6 kind of practice. Then 6th one is a chie, which is a wisdom. That's why, especially today, we are observing spring Ohigan service. I wanted to chant this Sanbujo because usually in the Buddhist tradition, Ohigan service whether spring or fall Ohigan service, they do service almost like a week, 7 days. Do you know how to do it? In the Mahayana tradition, there are 6 practices, like Sanbujo mentioned. So they have Ohigan service in the middle of the week. Then 3 days before, they do practice each different 6 practice. Then rest of after the Ohigan service, they have extra 3 services. That means total 6 services. That's how they practice in the Buddhist tradition. So many of Buddhist tradition in Japan, they have like a week-long service. But we are trying to be convenient. That's why we only just pack into the Sunday service. That's why, especially, we had to chant this Sanbujo, because we try to know how traditionally in our past generations, how they practice. So like Issei people came from Japan, and Japanese American Issei people probably they observed services like 6-7 days in Japan, if they are like a Jodo Shinshu or some other Buddhist practice in Japan. Then today, on this occasion for practice, I like to talk about how we care about our past generations, Like, every month we have monthly memorial service, as I explained, Shotsuki memorial service. Then, do you remember what was happened on November 20th, 1927? I'm sure you are not there, right? November 20th, 1927. Almost like 95 years ago, right? 95 years ago. Our neighbor, Dainiwa Buddhist Church, they installed onaijin, the altar, to the new temple structure. Have you seen your temple newsletter? There's an article I wrote. Then I also attached the group photo taken in front of the new temple structure. That was November 20th, 1927. Then they had like dozens of kids had their special kimono, for the little children. They have like a pink or green, blue, bluish kimono, that we call ochigo or chigo parade. So they had dozens of kids in front. Then in the back, they had all the adults standing. Then they celebrated their newly installed onaijin service. Then, 2019, November, they closed the temple service. The temple. So then we uninstalled all the onaijin, then taken to the Fresno Betsuin Buddhist temple. Since then, Dainiwa Buddhist Church onaijin is enshrined as a small chapel of Fresno Betsuin. So since then, we continuously use their onaijin for the funeral service or memorial services. But because they started 1927, so 95 years ago, so the many of the onaijin ornament is like dehydrated because in the wood. Then especially central cow is so dry. Then also the incense burner is corroded because that's a metal, So because 95 years, that's a history, right? Then you see in here in the Visalia Buddhist Church, in the front of the incense burner, there's a gold portion, right? Then that's a flower of the wisteria. That's a symbol of Jodo Shinshu. Then you see gold, right? But the Dainiwa one is just like a brownish or dark brown, like a same surface of other, incense burner. You know why? Because so many people touched. So, but over the decades, right? Over the decades. So the gold all came off. Look like a shiny, dark brown. Then here say Visalia Buddhist Church, right? The bottom, right? Then Dainibo one say Dainibo like a youth association that's a donated. So that's also have a gold plated the name itself. So since then I realized, oh, maybe I like to see how Issei people were seeing the incense burner. Because, back in 1920s, they just only have a monocolor picture, right? So even they wear the nice kimonos, we cannot recognize everything black and white, right? So that's why at least maybe I can revive the incense burner. Then I had the skill to apply the gold plate and gold leaf to all the things. That's part of my hobby. So I went to the Michaels, because they have a 24K pigments. It's a special order. Then I start applying to the gold on the surface of Visalia, and also the dragon, have a beard that's supposed to have a gold. Probably, maybe Dharma school kids took off all the gold, maybe. So it used to have a gold. Also the both sides has a dragon. So they have a beard has a gold beard. So even that came off for the Dainibo incense burner. So that's why I just put all the gold, everything, reply to it. Then finally a couple days ago, that's completed. I took like a month because, little by little I had to do, because, really tiny decoration, the engraving portion. That's why I had to take the time. Then finally, I took a picture, then I posted to the Twitter. I don't know how many of you see Nishihonganji, the Central Cal Twitter. We keep posting all the progress, how we applying to the gold. Then finally, we saw the original decoration of gold. Then at the time I realized, in 1927, 95 years ago, how these young kids in the picture, group photos, they're enjoying or appreciating the material came from Japan. Back then, everything shipped, right? Not flying, right? Nowadays, when you click something, in the store, then maybe, in the week, everything comes from all over the world, right? But, back then, like 6 months, 7 months, right? Even from the order. Then finally, they received all the ornaments. Then they start enjoying. Then in front of incense burner, Dharma school kids sung loud, or people commit their marriage, or someone was crying with a casket. Everything the incense burner was watching, the whole entire history of Dainibo. So by doing so, little by little, the gold plate is faded. Then finally, there's no more gold. So when I start reapplying all the gold, I start, recalling. Even I don't know how they were doing a service, because 95 years. So I was thinking, maybe Dharma school kids are singing. They had a mini wedding, because Dainibo was one of the biggest Japanese American population back then, because many of the family started from Dainibo. That's why Dainibo Buddhist Church is one of the oldest temple in the Central Cal in Jodo Shinshu. So I heard some of the people is survivor. They are already 95 and 100. That I had the chance to have an interview. They said, back then in 1920s, there's so many Nihonjin. Nihonjin means not a Japanese American. People who are speaking Japanese, right? So in 1920s, all the Japanese people, then wives came from Japan because of like a picture bride, So those kind of era, There are so many people enjoyed coming to the temple and church and sung the Ondoku-san and chanted Juseige and Sanbujo. Then everyone was eating a manju and tsukemono after the Sunday service as a refreshment. Those kind of things. The lady who was in the picture as a little girl shared me the story. Then when we look at our ornaments, like here in the Visalia, usually in the back of the ornaments, they have names of donor. like, I used a hammer, mallet, for the hitting a bell. That's a baker's field. The special service at the time, there is a name for the donor too. Then, even for the onaijin, the big altar, when you disassemble, you will see the names of donor. So right now, Fresno is trying to assemble their onaijin because they are trying to finishing up a new hondo. So I'm kind of trying to in charge for the restoration. Some of the wood is cracked, so that's why I try to replace the different one. Things like that. Then when I pour the wood, then backside of the altar revealed. Then I see, there's a name from 1920s, because the old Fresno Betsuin was built 1920. So I think some of the ornaments they purchased from Japan in 1920 or 1919. That was a time, is a last pandemic, right? Spanish flu, right? That was started in 1918, right? 1918 to 1920, around the time, right? About 2-3 years. So even during that difficult situation, people try to help to protect their community, their home, their spiritual backbone. So that way they could feel, we can move forward because, everything is okay. Just live with Gassho and Nembutsu and Namo Amida Butsu. That's the passion they kept moving forward to make everyone is revitalized, even in a difficult situation in 1920s at the time of the Spanish flu. Then now, here, we are having coronavirus, another pandemic we are under. I hope, pretty soon that will end it, but, we don't know. But what we can do is, the Buddhist teachings always encourage by seeing all the past generations' artifacts, then we can sense that how they strived, how they wanted to keep everything moving forward, make newer generation makes happy. Just like a Shotsuki, celebration. Because someday we have to die anyway. So by knowing that, how you like to focus this dash between life and death is matter. And that's most important. So when I was doing a restoration of the Dainiba Onaiji stuff, and by seeing all the names of the people, then I felt like even I never know those kind of people, who they are. Even I don't see the face, but I can sense that their passion, then their appreciation to the teachings. That is always tied into the future generation's happiness. Because, why they had to build a temple, right? Because I have my mago, my grandkids, maybe that's you, right? So they will coming in the future, right? That's why we had this all the setup to continue to enjoy what I enjoyed 95 years ago. That's still remain. Their passion will never fade. Because when we look at the Visalia Onaijin, I can sense that. How people in the back then installed the Onaijin, then how they are full of the smiling faces. Right? That's why me as a reverend, I try to commit 100%, put my own effort to maintain and expand this Visalia Buddhist Church to move forward even after the pandemic is over. That's why I hope everyone will continue appreciate how your past generation, even you have no tie to directly to the biological or whatever, but still here we exist, which is someone really maintained for us to enjoy. So I hope everyone will take this opportunity to remember and appreciate all the people in our lives and outside of our lives is try to make us happy, and stay healthy. In closing, please everyone join me gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Naman Dabutsu, Naman Dabutsu.